Hey, good morning. All right. We are live on Facebook and now going live on YouTube. There we go. Well, happy 4th of July, which means happy Independence Day for all of my American friends, day two. Reflect upon the sacrifices made by those to give us the independence that we now enjoy. One of those things, one of those independences that I particularly appreciate is the free market system that we enjoy, the ability to own our own business and to operate it as we see fit, everywhere from developing the products to the pricing. It's one of the many great freedoms that we enjoy that I'm especially grateful for this morning. So good to have you here this morning. And I expect that the live listenership won't be quite so high this morning, being a holiday here in the U.S. But so glad for those of you who are watching. And as you do, make sure, if you don't mind, as you watch or listen this morning, make sure you check in. Let me know who you are, where you're watching or listening from this morning. And this morning's topic is this. This is a good one. I get asked this a lot. How do I find my niche or niche or money voice in voiceover? So it's all about finding your niche or your money voice. Well, first of all, let's define what that means. Within marketing, part of the general wisdom of marketing is that you need to develop an identifiable product. What is it that you do, and what is it that you do best? And that becomes your niche or your niche. In voiceover, sometimes the word money voice is used, meaning what is it that people like you best for? Money voice. And if you're just getting started in voiceover, and how in the world can you know what that is? How do you develop that? How do you decide? So should I be doing promo? Should I be doing character voices? Commercials? If commercials, what kind of commercials? Maybe corporate work, maybe e-learning. What about ADR and dubbing and my goodness, smoke starts to come out of your ears as the gears grind, trying to figure all of that out. And let me just say that, yes, part of being a successful voiceover talent is figuring out what you're best at and marketing yourself in that way. That's good marketing advice. However, the way that it's pushed by most coaches in voiceover, it's given as bad advice. In other words, what's often said, because I get students coming to me, and I cannot tell you the number of students who have come to me telling me they've been pushed this advice, and that is, before you do anything, before you record a demo, before you market yourself, you must know what your niche is. What is your money voice? And I'm here to tell you that's really bad advice, because there is no way for you to know. Before you start, there is no way for you to know. Let me give you a little background. And by the way, good morning for those of you, Penang Island, Malaysia. Dennis, good morning. And then we've got Joe in Miami. Good to have you guys. It's a regular work day for you, Joe. Joe, hey, you can take some solace in knowing that, it is for me as well. So there's a number of us working today. A big chunk of my work comes from outside of the U.S., so a lot of my clients are not taking the day off or celebrating a holiday. Which is fine. That's good. That's a good thing. Hey, David in Louisville, what's up? Working on an Upwork proposal. Jay in Massachusetts and Australia. Aragon, good morning. All right. And happy 4th to you as well. All right. So, how I really learned the thing that I'm talking about this morning in terms of the marketing perspective of finding a niche or a money voice came through my broadcasting background. I programmed every station that I think every radio station that I've ever worked for at some point in time. And a part of my programming responsibilities was selecting music. So the radio stations I worked for are what we call reporting stations. So if you've ever heard somebody refer to the top 40, how is the top 40 decided? Well, it's decided through, now, I'm not sure exactly how it's decided today, but back when I was working in radio, it was decided through music sales, but also through radio airplay. But not every radio station. There's just a handful of stations that contribute to the national charts. So like for Billboard magazine, for instance, and a few other industry publications. And so if you're a station that reports to those industry publications, you get a lot of attention from record companies. As a matter of fact, they are pushing hard for you to play their new releases because that's a big part of the equation on becoming a top 40 song, for instance, or a top 100 song. And what does that mean? Well, that ends up increasing radio airplay because radio programmers are looking at those charts, which in turn increases sales. So just to give you a little idea of where I'm coming from on this. So I may have on my desk on any given week, back when I was working in radio, I may have 15, 20 songs, new releases on my desk with room for maybe two selections. So my job was to pick new music to play. Now, when you do that for a living, you start to develop a pretty good ear. And I grew up I was an intense top 40 radio listener. So I mean, I was inundated with it. I loved it, and I developed a pretty good ear for what I think the market liked. But that being said, there's no way you can always be right. And another thing is, it's really one other thing I learned about research. I mean, ideally, you research songs, but it's hard to research something that hasn't been exposed to the marketplace. So let me give you a for instance in radio, and bear with me, this is going someplace. It's harder to research a new song that the public hasn't heard, rather than to measure behavior of how people react to something that's been out. So for instance, I play you a song that you've never heard before. You can there's an initial reaction to it, and it may be good or bad, but how many times have you heard a song and you loved it? The initial reaction was positive, but over time, the more you heard it, the less interested you are, or it burned out on you fast and you were on to something else. But how many times have you heard a song for the first time that it really didn't land with you? It was like, meh. But then the second time you heard it was like, okay. The third time and fourth time, and before you knew it, it became the song that you couldn't wait to hear come on the radio. Again, the point of that is it's harder to measure what people will do or how they'll respond to something over a period of time, rather than it is to watch and actually look at the behavior, their actual response to it over time. In other words, are people requesting it? Are people purchasing the song? And once that begins to happen, then you know you've got something. Well, in voiceover, here's what I tell students to do. Your approach to voiceover should be very broad-based. In other words, market for everything. Whatever work you can get your hands on. Market yourself for commercial work, for corporate type work, for e-learning, for promos, character, all of that stuff. Put it all out there. And over time, and when I say time, it can take a while. I mean, it takes years to really dial in to know what you're best at, because it takes a while to develop that skill or skills. But over time, here's what happens, and this is the really cool thing. People will begin to hire you for your work, but when they hire you, they typically reference what they heard that they liked from your demos or your portfolio. So what happens very often for me, I have on my commercial demo, I have a Walmart commercial. And 8 times out of 10, maybe 9 times out of 10, when people come to me, that's what they point to, and they say, we really love the way you read the Walmart commercial. Read it that way. Read it like the Walmart commercial. And that has happened now for a number of years, and it far exceeds anything else that I'm requested to do. Now, I do some character work. I've done video games. I've done promo work. I've done, the dubbing, ADR. I've done almost anything imaginable in voiceover, and it's all part of my work. But the vast majority, 80 to 90% of the stuff that I do sounds like my Walmart commercial, because that's what the market has said that I'm best at. That's what they like. It's not what a coach told me I was best at. It's not what I thought I was best at, even. All that matters is what clients say. It doesn't matter what a coach says. It doesn't matter what your mom and dad says. What matters is what the market says. And if you give it enough time, the market will tell you what it likes. And you might be shocked. It might even be something that you're not that comfortable with. I do a weekly webinar with my voiceover blueprint students. Actually, we do about between 25 and 28 live coaching, group coaching sessions per month with those students. But I do a Q&A every Wednesday afternoon, and this past Wednesday I was talking to one of my students that I produced her demo, and we were having a conversation within the webinar because I wanted my other students to hear the story, and that is there was a script I wanted her to read, and I put it close to the beginning of the voiceover demo because my hunch was this was going to work very well for her. Ultimately, again, just like radio, I can take my pick based on my ear, and I've got a good ear. I can, I'll guess initially what I think will work best, but ultimately the market will tell you. Her response, or I'll never forget her contacting me and she said, "Bill, I hate it. I hate that read. I don't like it. I don't think I'm very good at it." And I said, "Just give it a chance. Let's just see what the market says." Long story short, it's what I call now her greatest hit. It's what people request because that's what they love her for. That's what they feel she's best at. So when somebody, says, "Hey, you must decide now what your niche is before you do anything," that's absolute nonsense. Absolutely not. You need to take a very broad-based approach. Let the market tell you. The market will tell you. They will tell you. They will vote. And remember, good research typically comes out of observing behavior. That's what we want to see, what people actually respond to. We don't want to guess. All right? We want to, in the marketplace, what do clients actually respond to? And then that becomes what I call your greatest hit. Your most requested demo or your demo segment where they say, "I like that commercial. I like that narration. I like that character voice." Those become your greatest hits. That's what you lead with. That is what people tend to hire you over and over for, and that will let you know what you're strongest at. That might change over time, but you always want to lean on here's a big pet peeve of mine. You go to see an artist or a band, who have established hits, and maybe you heard something 20 years ago from them that really, it was a time in your life, you're like 16 years old, and it just hits an emotional spot that just cements itself, and you love that song, you'll always remember that song. But you go to see them in concert 20 years later, and they don't want to play it. They don't play it because to them it's old and tired, and they want you to hear their new stuff. But no, you want to hear that song that you like because it meant something to you. So don't fight against the marketplace. If they want to hear it, then give it to them because that's your money. That's your money voice, and that's where your money comes from. That's what will butter your bread, so to speak. So that is how you find your niche, your niche, your money voice. All right, now let's check in. Let's see, we've got quite a crowd gathering here this morning. Let's see, Australia. Oh, it's 8 p.m. wherever. Yeah, with Dennis, work is over. Good for you. All right. Thank you, Aragon. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate that. Grass Lake, Sean, hello. Yeah, Jay, radio and records reporter. Yep, for many, many years. The good old days, back when record companies had a lot of money and they weren't afraid to spend it. Not payola, not like where they would pay cash for you to play songs, but they were doing stuff that now I don't think they can do. Like for instance, they would fly us to these conventions and they were taking us to these lavish dinners, and it was they would send their artists in to do a little like mini concert in your radio studio for the morning audience. And it was back in, for me, those were the golden days. That was a lot of fun. Harrison in Orlando, good morning. Oh, Chris, Denmark in the house. Yes. Do I take an upcharge for processing VOs on Fiverr orders? I don't, Chris, and you could. Excuse me, it's your business and you can set that up. But the thing is, I do processing as I record. So for me, I bundle it in. But I'm a Fiverr Pro, which means I have to charge, but they force me to charge more than the regular. So I think for me, it's fair to just include it as part of it. Voices Off Productions in Jerusalem, Israel. Okay, sorry, Daniel. I had to kind of work my way through that. And thank you for the happy Independence Day. I appreciate it. I hope you're doing well today. Hey, Jeffrey, Riley in Texas, Jason, what's up? Yeah, Jason's asking, do I leave the ones that I don't like in my demo to test the theory? Yes, over time, it takes a while to figure that out. But what's more important than taking out the ones that people don't respond to, because people typically won't tell you, hey, I don't like that. They won't tell you that. What they tell you is what they do like. So you make sure you leave the ones that you do like in there, and then you can update the other ones that don't get response and see if you can get, some response out of that. The idea is that it's like, if you're programming a radio station, here's the rule of thumb: play the hits, and that's not just if a music station; it could be a news station. The top stories, whatever it is people want to hear, that's what you give them. So you're always playing the hits. Same thing with your voiceover demos. Sean says, I despise filling out BMI logs. Sean, I remember back in the 80s. Having to start to do it. I spent more time filling out. BMI is a licensing organization, and that's a BMI, ASCAP, CSAC. At least at that time were the big three, and so that's how they determine how to pay songwriters and the people who actually create the content. And I felt like I spent more time filling out BMI logs than I did doing anything else. Hey, Jeffrey in Ohio. All right. Kevin, happy 4th to you as well. Can I do a video about my post-processing? Well, Jason, I have I've talked about it at times. If you actually search through my channel, just put search audio processing or audio chain, and you'll actually see what I do in there. So check that out and see what you think. Hey, guys, thanks a lot. I'm going to get to work now. I hope you guys have a great July